Hello, I'm Luke Brady and this is my ad mod piece. It's a reimagining of Chun-Li stage from Street Fighter 2. This is the final piece, the final render. Okay, so let's get started. First off, this was last year's piece. As you can see, there's a major difference. The number of issues that we had with last year's piece was, the main issue was the use of non-tileable textures. I didn't use any tileable textures at all during this scene, and these took up huge parts of the unwrap sheet. I mean, even buildings like this, the large buildings in the background, which could have easily used decals and tileable textures, they wasn't used at all, and which uses a whole of normal map. Overall, this unit here is supposed to be the hero piece. However, it just doesn't shine through. It's a bit dull. There's not enough going on there. There's no light. The sign, you can't make out the sign at all, and the textures overall very plain. Areas such as this, I mean, I'll try to use modular pieces as much as I can, but however, this is just, it's obvious that this is all just repeated assets over and over again. Same with the chicken cages. I'm not happy with those at all. There are areas such as this where you can see the divider textures, where some vertical pillars or something would really benefit this in a great way. Also, areas such as this, the bamboo, I mean, these just don't come through whatsoever. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but that needs sorting out. And overall, the overall composition of the map is very flat. It's very placed on like a 2D plane, and overall, it's just, we want more of a town hall, so to speak, like a market centre. So therefore, if we start building some buildings off to this direction as well, in the next scene, yeah, you can sort of make out we have this square here, which is the town hall, and this market hall, sorry. And then altogether we can add some more background in, because the red background does nothing for the scene whatsoever, and we need some realistic background going on. Okay, so all the low poly assets were brought into ZBrush, and they were then created a much high poly. Scrap that. Okay, so the low poly assets were then brought into ZBrush, and as you can see here, what I've done is, especially for the brick textures, we've cut away at the edges using the flatten tool, the flatten brush, sorry, and what we've done is rubbed away at the edges to give it more like that brick-like texture. We've also then gone over it with alpha to bring out more of a brick-like texture over the overall surface. All the little edges, as you can see, have been reworked. They've all had their slight little brick-like texture put on, and it gives the overall appearance of even the simplest of objects, such as this one, a much more realistic look. This one has been slightly poly-painted as well. As you can see, we've got the highlights on the edges, just like as you would, as the worn down brick, and that's basically brought it through. We've then used layers of different photo textures, a base coat of like a grey texture, along with more dirt and grunge to bring it, just add that little bit more extra detail. This will later be edited as well in Photoshop to add stuff like the sign, which will go into this little crevice here, and more little scratches, and even some more improvements on the normal map. Okay, and same again for another object. I'll show you another one right now, which is the roof. This has been brought in, which is just a simple, if I can show you, a flat plane. It was just sort of, this is what came in from 3ds Max, and obviously over the levels we've built it up into a much more high poly surface that actually reflects the look of tiles. We've added in this crevice that goes all the way down to split off the tiles into individual squares, and then gone in again and edited by layering up the front of the tile to give it a look of that rustic sort of look and feel. This whole object later on will be bent within 3ds Max to create the rounded roof that you can see in the final product. Okay, so not all the assets were created in ZBrush for the high poly versions. Some of the hard assets, such as the vents, as you can see here, these were created within 3ds Max. Because they were hard surface, it was a lot simpler using triple edge looping technique, and we can come up with quite a realistic looking vent. Added small crevices and small little details here and there, and as you can see, the end result that passes on, it's pretty good. It comes out pretty well. This is without the normal map on. Obviously with the normal map it will look a lot more smoother. The grate will be added using an alpha map that will be created. This is obviously just a high poly version that will be projected onto a 2D plane along with a normal map and specular map, not specular, sorry, alpha map. So we can put that grate on the front of our fan here. As you see, this one is ready, it still has a projection modifier on that projects the high poly onto the low poly. Same goes for the pipe. We've done the same sort of techniques, and same again for this small event, which has a lot of smaller pieces which project across quite nicely. This is the full asset pack for the game, not counting the decals. And basically here we have our base textures, our base models, sorry. Yeah, each of these can be used in different varieties, so this top can go onto this top, or we can go on top of here, or this can go in conjunction with this one. And there's lots of different ways you can do this, and these are then fleshed out using, well, at first they surrounded using these main pieces, which are the wall surrounds. These simply fit on, and as you can see, they tidy up the wall nicely and make the building look a bit more unique. And then here we have our main detail assets. Now these are the assets that flesh out all the base buildings. Now each of these have been made, most of them with high poly normal versions that have been projected down either in 3ds Max or using ZBrush and then projected on using that way and using X normals. So we start off with some simple steps we have that just flesh out the floor area, a variety of different windows as you can see that are around, and you can use these in different ways to show different results. A number of vents and pipes along with wires here. These are all made very low poly, very modular. They can fit together quite nicely, and you can flesh out the level quite easily using all of these assets. You see more telegraph poles. We have smaller details such as the smaller fence panels and the small boxes and crates that will flesh out the level, along with the chicken cage and the box, the cube. We also have more vertical pillars that will flesh out the level. This one here for the restaurant area, which matches the restaurant style with all the red and the green. We've gone way more this time and created a good texture for the rag asset. As before it was just a plain colour and it just didn't look realistic. Same with the signs. The signs have gone in this time and they've been completely transformed to have that more Chinese sort of gold look that you see on most traditional Chinese shops. Many of these signs have been taken into consideration, and we've actually used actual photo signs for this time for the textures. And along with all the main details, we've added a lot of highlights on areas as the edges. This gives a lot more, you can notice it more with the step. As you can see, the step looks rounded off, the edges do, and this has no normal map applied as of yet. But as you can see, it's just a simple poly, but it looks nice and smooth. The window texture, as you can see, that's ready for the alpha map to be placed in, so we can see straight through. And that's the asset. This small roof texture here will be used for the background assets, whereas this was used to create this in 3ds Max, which is for the foreground, which has a lot more detail in. As you can see, this all comes with normal maps, specular maps, and everything you expect to really make it pop. Also, as you can see, these are all optimised, ready for the game engine. We were using this for a fighting game, therefore the backs of these objects will never be seen, as the player cannot really interact so much with the level. So what we've done is deleted all the faces that will not be seen during game, and in some cases, especially for the surrounds, as you can see, the L shape that we've gone for, as the camera will only be facing one side of this at a time, the L shape is all we need, and we can simply rotate this around the level to match the view of the player. So this is the final texture. This is just taken one of them, the barber texture that we've got. As you can see, the sign is done a lot better this time. I've actually gone in and really worked on the text to try and get that gold look and try and get that gold pop out that you do. This has all been done with the normal map as well. As you can see, the normal map's done. It's no more flat normal maps. As you can see, this is all, I mean, that one, this one, that one, and the vents have all been done by projecting high poly geometry down onto the lower poly. So there and there. Excuse me. Okay, so with the diffuse, what I've done is gone over most of the diffuse this time. I've used photorealistic textures, but actually took a lot more work into them. You can see little areas such as the door are a lot more detailed than the plain flat pieces of wood they were before. Areas such as this, the larger areas, I've gone over all the trims. If you can see here across, just in between these lines, the white trim that have gone around all the edges of pretty much every object to really give it that pop and make the edges seem a little bit more rounded off without the aid of a normal map, and really tried to bring out the textures this time. Also, the unwrap sheet's a lot cleaner, no more wonky unwraps, everything fits together nicely. We do have a tiny bit of redundant space that I couldn't really fill in. However, compared to last year's, there's no comparison. And as you can see with the normal map, no more flat normal maps, I've gone in and done separate normal maps for each individual layer for the NVIDIA filter, and other objects, the bigger objects such as these, like I said, I've had projection from high poly geometry down inside. Okay, this is our final scene. It's all been placed in UDK, and as you can see, all the assets are fully modular. I've repeated many of the assets over and over in the scene to create the objects that you can see. As you see, this fan here is also being used there, it's also being used there, and I'm pretty sure you'll find it in other places as well. I'm pretty sure there's one down there. Simple stuff such as these windows. The windows have been used over and over again as well. Same with the garages, as you can tell there. However, I'll probably put these on here as a filler, because if I can show you now, if I press play from here. So the in-game view, as you can see, we've tried to go on for, as it's a fighting game, the camera will be restricted to moving only left and right. So really what I've done is limited the area. So this will be the limit on the left hand side, and as the players fight across, they want to go to around here, no further than here, because you start to see there is no background in the alley. And because it's a fighting game, the camera will stay at this view. We can also free movement of up and down using that if the player wishes. We've also added this final smoke particle effect, which I think went really nice in the level. It added that atmosphere to the whole level, the whole dirty, smoky, Chinese slums sort of area. And you can also see here, I'll show you this, a good way to represent the decals. And I'm really happy with how they've turned out, to be quite honest. The normal maps have worked really well, and from a distance you can see from here, this one has projected through twice. But you can see, as you can see from here, it looks like a chunk has been taken out the wall, and it looks like part of the texture. And it's worked out really well. The alpha map has also worked out well with the glass, the smashed glass. The normal map, not so much. I should have gone back and really reduced the normal map on this, as it doesn't look so realistic. However, the overall effect when you're looking from this view, it does look good. And it looks realistic, it does look good. So we've also got I've added in the wires, as you can see, just for some overhead filler. And this is also our reflection puddle. There's a couple of these puddles lined around the scene, there's one there. Basically what these offer, these reflect the scene around it, which show off a good... They show off the level more, they fill in the floor level more, because before this floor was very plain. We needed some stuff to fill in, and we couldn't just paste these crates and these crates all around the scene. It wouldn't look right. And the way I've got it at the moment, I think is a nice match of the crates around the scene, the puddles, and the chairs here on the left. Overall, I'm happy with the scene. It turned out very nice compared to last year's. Last year's final piece. It's remarkably better. The textures are a lot smoother. They're a lot better. The models are a lot better, and overall the just the overall look of the scene, it looks more well presented. It's ready for to be placed into a game. This is the scene that you would see in a game these days. There is some final work, some final tweaks. Some areas which didn't work so well, such as this area here with the door, the texture, the assets sort of overlapping. The lighting as well. I mean, I've tried about different ways with the lighting, but I think this probably would have done a lot better if we had some sort of maybe a nighttime scene as well. What I really wanted to do is a raining scene where the rain's come down, but I didn't get a chance to do that. As you can see, I'll show you now as well how optimised the assets are. As you can see, with a fighting game you're only going to see from the front, so you can tell just from looking here, the front is all you see. We have all these assets. That's not good. Yeah, all the assets are completely faceless at the back. Some of them, such as this, we have, it's more of an L shape. This way we can rotate it left and right and have it looks different on every building instead of having the same pattern over and over again. Another small piece, in the level we featured a swinging wire hanging from the telegraph poles. If I just press play, you can see this has a very gentle animation, what we went for, just to show a slight swaying in the wind, and this works pretty well. Along with a spark on the end, a spark emitter on the end of the wire, it'll add that realistic effect and more movement and more ambience within the level. We also, I'll take this time to show you the puddle texture, which, as I said before, uses a reflective material. This was done by using a reflection vector, which passes through a picture. Basically, was a render taken from the scene itself. You can slightly make it out. The only issue is here, the texture is tiled, and from different views you can see this tiling occur. Ideally we'd like to stretch the texture more. I'm not 100% on the way how to do that. Maybe by increasing the size of the texture would work, but I wanted to keep the texture to a really small size, especially as it's only going to be blurred in the reflection anyway. Okay, so to finish off, I'm just doing a slight comparison to the level that I went for. This is the remastered Chun-Li version. I found it better to compare my work to this version, as this is more updated to the latest games, whereas Street Fighter 2 was made for the older consoles and it didn't even use 3D graphics. So, as you can tell, I'm quite happy with the comparison, to be quite honest. The floor texture this time has come up a lot better. It's a more realistic floor texture. The normal map works well. The specular map can't be seen that much, but I think that's because of the time of day and there's no real good lighting around. The scene is being filled out, probably not as full as this. I could have done with some more rags and wires as shown here down the alleyways maybe. But overall, I'm happy with the result. The Chinese sign here for the barbers, so I tried to match this one, and it worked pretty well. The specular map works extraordinarily well on this image, however on mine not so good. Again, specular was a huge problem, to be honest, throughout the whole scene by the looks of it. Not 100% sure as of why. My only reason as to now is because of the lighting that I've used. Perhaps dominant lighting probably wasn't the best choice. However, in the future I do have time to try around and have a mess around with this. Overall, I've learned a lot of things during this final process. More importantly, about the in UDK, presenting the work in UDK has been my biggest step, as that was my biggest flaw last year. But I'm happy with the final result. It's a result that I'm happy to put into my portfolio, and that's it. Thank you.